Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. So as you just saw, I have planted up my trial garden bed over in my willow tree garden. And that day, it was such a lovely day. It was just the perfect spring weather. And I just wanted to get out into the garden and get my hands dirty. And I spent, 6 or 7 hours straight just in the garden having a lovely time. And I am so happy I set up my camera for when I planted up my trial garden bed because I knew I wanted to share it with all of you. So how do I explain this garden bed? This trial garden bed, so we started calling it our trial garden bed. That was thanks to my friend Michael Glassman. He has helped me design most of my garden. And this area, which is our willow tree garden bed, we are going to redesign. We are going to redo it. But what we've decided is to focus on one area of the garden per year, just so that we can focus our time, our attention, and honestly our budget on one area of the garden. And so last year it was the center island. This year it's actually our backyard, which we're making really great progress on this year. And we are postponing this garden bed. I don't even think it's going to be next year, because I think next year is going to be the front of the house, the zigzag planter and everything. So eventually we'll get to this garden bed, this garden area, but we're just not quite there yet. It's kind of getting pushed down on my to-do list because it's very close to the street. I don't find myself spending a lot of time over here. It's not like I'm going to have coffee out here or anything like that. It's kind of just for looks. So I would rather focus on the areas that I actually hang out in closer to the house first, and then eventually come out here. So eventually we will be working on this area. And when we do work on this area, this garden bed is actually coming out. This garden bed was here when we moved in. There was a matching one on the other side. We had 2 plum trees that were dying that we took out. And then there was a matching raised garden bed over here, right around the curve right here. So we ended up taking that out. We took the one over there out, and this one just got left. But like I said, it's eventually going to come out. But for the meantime, while we're not focusing on this area, Michael came up with the great idea to make it a trial garden bed, which is perfect because I work with Proven Winners, and Proven Winners is a fabulous plant company, but they are a Midwest plant company. And so they trial a lot of their plants in the Midwest. They do have trial gardens all over the country, but where they have them is they have them in the Midwest, in the Northeast, and then for the heat, they have their trial gardens in Florida. And Florida is hot like we are here in California. However, it's hot and humid, and we are hot and dry. So this is not an official Proven Winners trial garden, but it's my official Proven Winners trial garden. And it's just a way for me to try out a lot of plants, a lot of their new plants, some of their old plants that I've just never tried before in my Zone 9B Northern California garden. So let me show you all the plants that I planted in my trial garden bed. And each one has a reason that I decided to plant it in here. And mostly it's just to see how it does over a full season. So some of them, it's I know they're not going to last all season because they're cool season annuals. Some of them are perennials and maybe might not show their true colors until a little bit later on in the season. But I think it'll be fun to see how they do. Give them a specific place. They're all hooked up to drip. There is mulch here. There's arborist wood chips here. And I did amend the soil with some compost. So they all should be pretty happy in this area. But I don't know. I think it'll just be interesting to follow them throughout the year. Okay, so the first plant I planted in my trial garden bed is one that I have had my eye on for so long. This is called the A Romance Mulberry Nemesia. I have just seen people plant these with a dark foliage, sweet potato vine or something like that, and I'm just jealous. I just think it looks so pretty. The problem is that Nemesia likes a little cooler weather. So I don't know how it's going to do. I don't know. I've tried this one before, and I've tried it in a little bit more shade at my last house. And when I planted it at my last house, it just didn't bloom because it was in more shade. So it's kind of a tough plant for Zone 9. I just wanted to see how it does. And maybe it's like the lobularia, the Snow Princess lobularia, that kind of, it doesn't look at its best during the summer, but then in fall and winter, it looks stunning. It looks absolutely beautiful. So these I'm planting not so much for now. I'm not expecting them to do great now just because they like the cooler weather, but I want to see how they do once they're all rooted in for the fall and for the winter. So we'll see. But I will say, when I was planting these, the smell, you guys, the smell of this plant is just so lovely, so beautiful. I love the smell of this plant. It kind of reminds me of that heliotrope smell. It just is really great. Then right underneath that, I planted another cool season annual. This is Laguna Royal Azure Lobelia. And this one I definitely wanted to try because lobelia is another one of those plants that tend to fry as it gets a little bit warmer. But Proven Winners says this one is actually bred to withstand heat and humidity better. So as soon as I read that, I was like, okay, I definitely have to try it. I'm always a little hesitant to plant these type of plants that like the cooler weather more, because I just kind of assume they're not going to last very long in my climate, which is why I think they're perfect to plant in the trial garden bed, because if they fry or if they don't look good for most of the season, it's no big deal. It's part of the whole thing. So anyway, I'm interested to see how this one will look. It's a beautiful blue color, and as compared to the Nemesia, already it's doing a little bit better than the Nemesia right after planting. All right, then I showed you guys this during my perennials haul, but I have 3 different varieties of Nepeta here in my trial garden bed, just because Proven Winners has so many interesting varieties of Nepeta, and I love the Cat's Pajamas Nepeta. It's absolutely my favorite, and it's interesting because it's only rated to a zone 8, and that is a USDA rating. And I had someone ask me in a comment, how is that possible that you can grow something that's only rated up to a zone 8? And my answer for that is the USDA zones only keep track of one category, and that is temperature, right? But there are so many other factors, humidity, fog, wind, soil, all that kind of stuff, that makes it so that you can kind of fudge it a little bit when it comes to USDA zones. So just because it says something on the tag, it's always kind of worth it to trial it in your garden and see how it will do in your own specific garden, which is what I feel about Nepeta. So the 3 varieties I have are Cat's Meow, I have Lemon Perfection, and I have the one I'm really excited about, which is Catwalk Queen. And I planted them all next to each other just so that I can see how the differences. Cat's Meow is supposed to get a little bit taller than the other ones. Lemon Perfection is supposed to have blooms all season long, and then of course it has this chartreuse foliage that's absolutely beautiful. And then Catwalk Queen is the one I'm most excited about, because this one is supposed to be pretty short, but it's supposed to have really, really big blooms and blooms for a long time. And it's supposed to be a great plant to suppress weeds, like in the front of your garden bed. So I'm really interested to see these 3, see how they do, and compare them to the Cat's Pajamas that I have other places in my garden. And I absolutely love that plant. It's a fantastic plant. Then for some foliage, I did plant some of this Medusa Black, and I am planting this in other areas of my garden. But this is just new to me, and I thought it would be fun to plant it here and see how it does. Full hot sun, and then it's going to spill over this concrete right here. So I just wanted to see how it would do, if it would keep its color. Whenever you have a dark Ipomoea, sometimes some of them can fade. So I'd like to see how this one does, and I had some extras and I wanted to put it in there and see how it does. All right, then coming on to this one. This one is Southern Blaze Bright Pink Phlox. And this one is really interesting because it's a new plant for Proven Winners. And this phlox is supposed to be more heat tolerant and more humidity tolerant, which is really, really interesting because I always think of phlox as like it doesn't like the heat, it doesn't like our heat, so we can't really plant it. But I just did a garden tour. I just filmed a garden tour, and the woman had planted phlox in her garden for years. So I'm super interested to see how it will do. I will say that it's not blooming right now. There's a couple blooms. There's one bloom right here, so we can see the color of it. A really beautiful color, but it's not blooming. So I don't know I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of watch it and see how it does, and I will let you all know, but I will be so very happy if this works in my garden. It's 8 to 10 inches tall, and let's see, it's hardy in zones 10 and 11, so definitely an annual for me. And it's a pretty small plant, so we'll see how it does. We'll see. Again, I don't have any humidity, so this isn't really going to help those of you in Florida, but they have trialed this plant in Florida and says it does fantastic. Okay, and then coming over on this side, this, I actually have some new Supertunias. This is Supertunia Vista Pink Cloud. And I just didn't have anywhere to plant this in my garden. I didn't incorporate it into any of my combinations this year, but I wanted to grow it so badly because to me, it just seems like the most beautiful, delicate pink color. I just thought it was so gorgeous. And it's a mini Vista. So what that means is there's smaller flowers. It's just as vigorous as a Vista, but it just stays a little smaller. So I planted 3 of them to see how they would do and how they would grow, and just so that I could see the color. I know these are going to do fantastic here, but it's just a matter of seeing what the color is. So I'll keep you all updated with that. Then I'm going to skip over this one for 1 second. Another Supertunia is this Cool Jazz. And this is another one that I just wanted to see the color in person. And I'm so glad that I ordered these to see the color, because I have to say it doesn't look the same when you see it on the website, the Proven Winners website. This is Cool Jazz, so it's kind of an offshoot of Supertunia Vista Jazzberry. And Jazzberry is really beautiful, but I would almost call it like a neon color. It's very, very, very intense. And this one is not like that. I mean, it's still an intense color, but it's like a lavender. It's like a cool lavender. And if you like the cooler colors in your garden, this one will be absolutely perfect for you. And I'm so happy that I got this so that I can see it in person and then planting it and see how vigorous it is compared to the other Vistas. Because, you know, no matter what, Proven Winners has their categories of different Supertunias, Supertunia Mini Vista, Supertunia, and Supertunia Vista. But there are variables, you know, in each of those categories. And some of them, like bubblegum, is obviously one of the most intense and the most crazy ones. And then I'm trying to think what's a Vista that's not as crazy. I don't know. Snowdrift is pretty crazy. Jazzberry is not as intense as bubblegum. So anyway, I'll keep you guys updated on this one, this Cool Jazz. I'm loving the color already. I think it is beautiful. Then I did have someone send me a pack of seeds, and I can't remember your name right now, but a huge thank you to you, and introduce me to this plant. And this is called a creeping zinnia, and Proven Winners calls it Sunbeanie San Vitalia. It's a small, it looks like a small daisy, or, I mean, that's what it looks like to me, is a small daisy, but people say it's a small zinnia. Very, very small, very low. It's only about a foot tall, 6 inches to a foot tall. And then the spacing, you space it about a foot apart. So it is going to get pretty wide, and it is going to cover an area, which is probably why they call it creeping zinnia. But anyway, I have these pack of seeds that I was supposed to start, and then I realized that Proven Winners actually sells this variety of plants, and this isn't a new variety. They've had it for a while. I've just never tried it, and I just think it is the happiest, cutest looking plant, and I think it would go so well in combinations, but I wanted to try it in my trial garden bed first. So I don't know. I don't think a lot of people talk about this plant. I'm not sure why. I'm just really interested to see how it does, but it is so cute, and thank you to whoever introduced me to this plant, because I'm really excited to try it this year. Okay, then last but not least, in my trial garden bed, I have 2 perennials to show you. One of them is this one right here, and this one is called an Amsonia. And I have to be honest, I've never planted Amsonia before. They don't really sell a lot of these around in my area. They don't have them a lot at garden centers. So I can't really attest to how well this will do in hot, dry climate. And I would love your guys's input in the comment section, you know, letting me know where you live and if you grow this, and everyone else can look at that as well, just to kind of get ideas. But this one I'm just not familiar with. I've just never planted before. It has really pretty blue kind of star-like blooms. So this is called Storm Cloud. But I think the thing that is really magical about this plant is the fall foliage. The fall foliage is supposed to be absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. So I'm excited to try it, and I'm excited to see how it does. It zones 4 through 9. It gets about 30 inches tall, and about, I don't know, 3 feet wide or something like that. So I might have planted them a little close together, but that's okay. They're not going to stay here for long. I'm going to try and leave these here for like a year, maybe 2 years to see how they do, and then to see if I can plant them somewhere else in my garden. Now coming over here, we have this one. This is called Opening Act Ultra Pink Phlox. So this is another phlox. And again, like I was saying with the other phlox, I was a little bit iffy on whether or not phlox would work in my garden. But I actually planted this one in this trial garden bed I would say end of last summer, I think is when I planted it. So it's been in for the heat. It was in for the winter, for the rainy season, and for the spring. And I have to be honest with you guys, there has been a pink bloom on this plant since I planted it. It has been blooming absolutely nonstop, and it hasn't fried at all. It has not made it through our hot summers yet. I have to wait to see how it makes it through its hot summers. But so far, I am very, very happy with this plant. I planted 2 more last weekend when I was planting everything else. They already have buds on it, and it's about ready to go nuts. But I don't know. I'm really excited about this. And this is exactly what this trial garden bed is for. Because when I planted it, I didn't have much hope for it, but I kept walking by it and noticing, oh, that's still blooming. Oh, it's still going. And it's just making me really excited and making me think I'm going to plant this in my garden. So let's see, 22 to 28 inches tall, full sun, hardy zones 4 through 8. So that's another one that I was kind of iffy about. Sorry, there's a tractor. Country living at its best. All right. So anyway, zones 4 through 8. So it's another one of those perennials that's not technically in my zone like Nepeta, but it's still worth a trial. And so far it's been really great. I just have to see how it does in the heat of the summer. And I, of course, will keep you guys updated. So I have to say, this is one of the plantings that I am most excited about this year. I think simply because there's no pressure. There's no pressure on these plants, having to keep these plants alive, make sure that they look good throughout the season so that my garden looks good. If everything dies, it's okay. It's no big deal. And that's kind of fun. So if you're like me and you like trialing new plants, maybe think about this. Maybe think about making like one raised bed or one container in your garden, your trial garden container, or one little area, your trial garden, because then it becomes really fun when you go to the garden center or you're looking online. You know, if you're kind of iffy about a plant and you don't know, it gives you a chance to trial it out without any of the pressure. So I will keep you all updated on how these guys are doing over the season with the heat, with our dryness, and then throughout the winter. I'm going to leave all these in for the winter as well. I'll probably keep you updated during garden tours, but maybe I'll do a follow-up video or something like that with these. I don't know. I'm just pretty excited about it, and I'd love to hear your input. And if you're trialing any plants in your garden that maybe isn't the best fit for maybe it's not in your zone, but you want to trial it anyway. That's what's fun about gardening. You can push the boundaries. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.